The final thing we want to sort of consider about taxes is how much can the government actually raise from a single market? And sort of when we say raise, we're talking about this idea of tax revenue. It's just sort of the amount of money the government's able to raise through that tax. It's sort of self-explanatory. It's going to look, and it actually is just going to be government surplus, is the government revenue. Well, what we're going to find is that taxes are going to start out, let's start with zero. We're going to start increasing taxes, and government revenue or tax revenue is going to increase. But eventually it's not going to increase anymore. It's going to actually start decreasing, because as sort of the tax gets larger and larger, it starts reducing demand, right? And as demand gets reduced, and if the tax is on per unit of goods sold, well, then there's just less units of goods being sold. And so we'll see this in a second when we actually compute this out, but we would write this relationship as is what we call a Laffer curve. It's just, I give you sort of the level of taxes, and the Laffer curve gives us back the tax revenue collected by the government. And with a $0 tax, it's going to end up being that, well, there's zero tax dollars in revenue if the level of tax is zero. And as the tax gets larger and larger, it will increase, and then it will start decreasing eventually and go back down to zero when sort of the tax completely shuts down the market. So let's actually compute out a Laffer curve really quickly and go from there. All right, so let's stick with this same supply and demand curve we were working with earlier, and let's actually compute out the Laffer curve. To do this, I usually create a table here where I have the tax and then figure out the revenue from that tax. And so to do that, we just need to use the demand curve. So if we start thinking about the tax rate is zero, it should be pretty obvious that the revenue is zero, but let's just go through it. The quantity there is 5 when the tax is zero, but the tax 0 times 5, well, that's just $0 in revenue. Now let's look at a $2 tax. We can put basically the $2 tax would be here, right? This would be tax equals $2. And we can think about this as the tax equals 0. So at our $2 tax level, the quantity equals 4. Well, 2 times 4, that means we get $8 in revenue. And let's just keep going. So 4. So 4, we have to stick in here. Right, between 7 and 3. This is the tax equals $4 case. So the quantity transacted when the tax equals $4 is 3, and our revenue equals 12. So far, our revenue as we increase tax has gone from 0 to $12. Now let's keep going. So a $6 tax. That sort of fits in here. Right? Our price of demand is 8 and the price of supply is 2. And so that's our $6 tax. And we can think, okay, quantity transacted is 2. And then revenue, 6 times 2 is 12. Well, what's happening is that our revenue didn't increase this time. Our revenue stayed the same. Let's keep going. It's $8 tax. Well, we can fit that right here between at quantity 1, when the tax of demand, the price of demand is $9 and the price of supply would be $1. So here we have just 1 unit transacted. $8 on the tax, 8 times 1, well, that's 8. And now our revenue starts falling. And then our final one, a $10 tax, well, oops, we can fit that in here. And in fact, this tax, the quantity demanded is 0. Basically, the tax is so high that it just completely shuts down the market. And then our revenue generated here is 0. And so if we graph it, we can just sort of graph out the Laffer curve to see what it looks like. And so we'll just put some points here, 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, and then 10. This on the x-axis here is the tax rate, or sorry, the tax. And then on our y-axis, we have tax revenue. And so we'll just skip around. We'll say, well, let's just do a couple points. Let's just do our $8 in tax revenue are not there. Oh, goody. Let's put this as our $12 in tax revenue. And so all we have to do is just take our points from the table, and we can say, the graph's a little messy, I'm sorry about that. 0, 0, 2, 8, 4, 12, 6, 12, 8, 8, and then 10, 0. What actually happens is that the highest point of tax revenue is going to be a parabola, and the highest point of tax revenue happens at tax equals 5. And so this point, the top of the Laffer curve, is the maximum possible revenue. That is, you can't extract more tax revenue than this. Even as we sort of increase taxes, demand, sort of quantity transacted, decreases sufficiently quickly that the sort of tax revenue ends up going down as we increase taxes. And so, yeah, this is the Laffer curve. It's just, like I said, it's all it is a relationship between taxes and tax revenue. In fact, let's just say this. This is the Laffer curve. Super important to remember, because it's going to tell you sort of everything you need to know about taxing as a market.